Madam down in Blackwater. That was Craig cutting the back grass. Again, notice how exposed the whole back is before the fences were built. This, believe it or not, is Mum on a bike. Mum and Dad and Andrea and Dor. Sarah Swan, Jill Fisher, Andrea, Julian and Craig on a trip to the zoo for Andrea's birthday. See Craig posing with the shades. Sarah Swan and Julian, Andrea, Craig, I don't know who the other little girl is. Sarah, Andrea, Jill Fisher, Dor, Julian, Craig. And this was the birthday party at home. Glenn. The picnic we had one day in Baltinglass Abbey. Julian, Craig, Dor, Andrea and Glenn. Andrea dancing in the Abbey. This was one of the St. Patrick's school sports. It was held in the Warnock's back garden, the three-legged race. Andrea. Glenn coming out to see what's happening. The sack race. Andrea was quite good at the hopping, but not too good at the moving forward. That's her in the middle now. Anne Stewart with Glenn. That's me in the shades. Morgan Stewart. Garnet. Garnet again. Glenn. The high jump. Andrea, straight through it. Good sports person, our Andrea. Stanley Payne. Back in Burnaby Park, and the next door neighbour's two children with Andrea feeding a pigeon. This was Dad's 65th birthday. Gran, Andrea, back in Blackwater again, Madge, Dor. Craig's supposed to be feeding the ducks, but I think he's having a little bit himself. Madge with Glenn in the pram. Andrea, Dor going to throw her in, or pretending to do so. This was a bull down in a field near us in Blackwater. We christened him Henry. Dor. Craig, Andrea and Dor. We're down in Johnstown Castle now, just outside Wexford, which is owned by An Foras Forba, but the grounds are open to the public. Glenn, Andrea, Madge, Dor, Craig. We're down in Wexford here. Glenn, Andrea, and me. Andrea with a fit of the sneezes, and Glenn, and the train on its way to Rosslare. Down on the beach at Rosslare. Madge and Andrea. Craig. Craig, and I think these were probably his first steps. Not too happy about that, particularly when the hood slipped over him. Craig, back in Blackwater at Stephen's aunt's cottage. Andrea and Craig. We're back down on Blackwater Beach now. Glenn, Andrea and Craig, Glenn with Dor, Robert Kemp, Leslie, Sarah, slightly exposed, Glenn, Sarah, Scott Townsend, John Robert, and Glenn, Ken Townsend and Robert, this is Ken and Robert flying their model aircraft in the field behind Robert Kemp's house. We're back on the beach in Blackwater again. Glenn and I going for a walk. Andrea and I going for a swim. Leslie Kemp and Sarah. Me going to throw Craig in and give him a Duncan. John Robert. Robert organising the barbecue. Dora, Andrea and Sarah. Leslie giving out because the smoke's in her eyes. Sarah and Andrea. And Leslie and Robert's house in Blackwater. Glenn. Da. Madge, Da. Gran, Dor, and Glenn. There's Henry's brother. I don't know that we actually got around to naming him. Coming down the hill after a walk. Go on, lift your leg, Dory. Andrea and Craig. This is a trip that we were going down to Inchydoney, and we stopped off in Dungarvan to give the kids a bit of air, and that's Dungarvan Bay. This is Inchydoney, which is just outside Clonakilty in County Cork. There are two fine strands in Inchydoney, that's one of them. The hotel coming up in the middle. There's the second strand. It was very safe for the kids because it was very shallow, but the danger was when the tide started to come in that you had to move fairly quickly. Craig, Dor, Louise, Holmes and Andrea. We'd gone down to the hotel with Colette and John and the two kids, Louise and Karen, Louise and Craig, Andrea on the pony, Craig on the donkey, Andrea on the donkey, and Craig on the pony. The old pony and trap there in the background. Dora and John Holmes. John had just bought himself a new camera. The body beautiful. Mind me camera. Dora's white bits. Colette Holmes. Dora showing how warm it was. And this is Kinsale. It's Craig, Karen, Holmes, Louise Holmes, and Andrea at the fort at the entrance to the bay that Kinsale's in. Dora and John. John handing out the blackberries. This is pumping the water in Clonakilty. And me showing them how it should be done. This was one of the many little ports down on the southwest Cork coastland. It could be Baltimore, I'm not sure. Back at Inchydoney again. Craig had persuaded me that he wanted to go fishing, so I'd borrowed a rod and reel from Stephen, but of course when the crunch time came he didn't want to go, so I went off on my own fishing and caught these two salmon bass. The one on the right I got a specimen fish certificate for because of its size. This was us playing with the kids in the sand dunes at Inchydoney. Giving the kids a ride on a rug down the sand dunes. Strong man John. And Andrea, you leave my mommy alone. Me pushing Dora up the sand dunes. Not sure whether Craig was trying to help or hinder. And this is me with Dora on the rug coming down a sand dune. John, Colette, Louise and Karen. We've now moved down to Cove in County Cork, St Coleman's Cathedral, the old Innisfallen with Haulbowline in the background, and the chimneys that you can just see going by are where we lived when we lived in Cove. Spike Island and the entrance to Cork Harbour, and this is Glen. This is a holiday that we went on in 1979 to Gibraltar, where Brian was stationed at the time. And we rented, or he rented for us, a lovely house just about 50 yards, if 50 yards from that main square. And this was the changing of the guard with the mass bands. This is the general view of Gibraltar. That's the Naval Hospital. And that's Rosia, where Nelson was brought ashore after he was killed in the Battle of Trafalgar. He was pickled in a barrel of brandy. This is the officers' mess where Brian lived. And this is a general view of Gibraltar from the sea. One of the nuclear submarines. One of the desalination plants, and again that's a general view of Gibraltar and the rock. That's the lighthouse, where you have the entrance from the Atlantic to the Mediterranean, and the rock itself. That's us on the boat, Craig and Andrea. And this was us swimming in Rosia. Rosia was reserved exclusively for army officers and their relatives. And Glenn had only just learned to swim. In fact, he couldn't swim properly, that's why he has the armbands. That's Andrea going down the slide. And this is Glenn. This was a swim across the bay of, or the harbour of Gibraltar, and it took place the morning after the Midsummer's Ball. And some of the guys on this had been up all night drinking. Two of them in particular that we were with were both surgeons. That's one of them there in the water. There he is, having come across the harbour, and that's the other fella. This is again a view of Rosia. And that's the little harbour that Rosie was in. Craig, Glenn, Brian and Dora, Glenn hurriedly having a little snack, Craig, again I've gone higher up the rock here, and it's again a general view of Gibraltar. This was the rock itself. We'd gone up through the various walks and caves through it, and it was used by the British to shoot at the Spaniards. That was a little parapet that was there, and Glenn scared the life out of us by trying to climb up on it. There was a sheer drop on the far side. There's some of the old guns that were used. And this was looking down onto one of the beaches. Andrea off the high board, Glenn, he hadn't an ounce of fear in the water. Glenn again. Craig. The water here, unlike the Mediterranean, was actually quite cold because it had the Atlantic still had a big influence on the temperature, but that didn't seem to perturb them. Or having a little sleep, Brian. Here's the noise of the camera. And this was us on one of the naval tugs going over to Tangiers. This is the entrance to Tangiers. One of the traders. That was one of the mosques. That was the boat that we went over on. We were actually waiting there for our passports to be stamped. Here we are on the way back, and as you can see from the sea, it had got quite choppy. Here we are coming back into Gibraltar. That was the three kids on one of the decorative guns. That was the old city wall. One of the tombs, and within that graveyard were many people, and you could see that they had died at the Battle of Trafalgar. This is the British side of the border, and that's the Spanish side of the border. When we were there, the border was closed and had been closed for many years. This was the Spaniards' attempt to do an about turn and march off. This is how the British did it. Again, we're back at Rosie on the raft, and that was one of the the boat races they had. Glenn back in the water. Now we move on to some wedding days. Peggy, Dad, Mum, Marcella. And this is at Rory and Celine's wedding. There's Albert coming in trying to dodge the camera. There's Des and Celine. Anne Stewart, who is minding our kids. That's Rory and Celine with the Guard of Honour from the Civil Defence. Mrs. Gannon, Marcella, Madge, Mrs. Evans, Anne's mum, and Charlie, Anne's dad, Flo Fennell. Tommy, a brief glimpse of Tommy, Marcella, Madge, Liam Maguire, the proud father of the bride, with a bouquet that he doesn't know what to do with. Dad, Flo, Madge, Marcella, Rory, Albert again, Niall Maguire, Mr. Evans, Mum and Mr. Maguire, again Daddy caught with the bouquet.